I think it's very important that tradition stays, and tradition has a huge part of all this. But there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do? Are we still doing and having the most impact we could be having?
The royal family has shared important news. Prince William is facing more serious challenges than anyone realized. For weeks, rumors have circulated at the palace, and he has been quiet during public events. Now, we know the sad truth. This man, known for his calmness and bravery, is facing issues that no title can shield him from. Insiders say, this has shaken him deeply. Something has changed behind the palace gates for good. As the country supports him in this difficult time, one question remains. Can the future king cope with what comes next? The silence before the storm. It's early February at Windsor Castle. The sky is gray and heavy, and there's a thick mist in the gardens. Typically, you'd hear footsteps and quiet chatter, but today it's eerily silent, almost suffocating. It feels like time has stopped. A crowd has gathered outside. Reporters huddle together, their cheeks red from the cold and eager for news. Something feels off. The usual chatter has turned to whispers as everyone watches the long gravel drive leading to the castle. At 7 a.m., a black sedan arrives, breaking through the fog. The door opens, and out steps Princess Catherine, looking neat but serious, with her coat buttoned tight against the chill. She doesn't wave or smile. Her face looks blank, and her eyes seem distant. One reporter near the rail says, "That's her, but where's William?" Catherine strolls to the car, gripping the handle tightly, her hand shaking slightly. She gets in, and the door shuts with a heavy sound that echoes in the silence. The engine starts, and she disappears into the fog. Inside the castle, the silence is oppressive. The clock ticks softly in the background. Staff creep, exchanging worried looks. Something is clearly wrong. In the family wing, the nanny stands by the window with George and Charlotte, both still in their pajamas, staring out at the fog. "Mummy says no school today," Charlotte says softly. The nanny agrees, trying to keep the mood light. "That's right, Poppet. It's a cozy day in." George asks, "Why though?" The nanny hesitates before answering. Family stuff and love, nothing to worry about. But she senses the heaviness in the air, especially after seeing Catherine's troubled expression at breakfast. William hasn't been seen for days. The last time was a week ago at a charity event, where he appeared tired and distracted. He apologized quickly and left the stage. The palace said he was under the weather, but that hasn't eased concerns. Now the silence feels more charged than ever. Catherine's heels click on the marble floor, echoing as she approaches the king's study. She stops outside the heavy oak door and takes a deep breath before knocking softly. From inside she hears, "Enter." Charles is standing by the window looking tense. Morning light catches his hair, making it silver. He nods as Catherine enters. No greeting is needed. "Thanks for taking care of this," he says in a rough voice, clearly tired. Catherine settles into a chair. "The kids are home," she says softly. "They're asking questions." Charles closes his eyes for a moment, clearly pained. "They're too young for this," he replies. There's a long silence. Outside, a bird chirps and then stops. Catherine plays with her wedding band, the metal scratching against her skin. "Should we tell them?" she asks. He hesitates and replies, "Not yet." The room goes quiet again. The clock's ticking fades into silence. Meanwhile, the communication team is in a side office preparing to respond to the gathering crowd. They discuss drafting a brief response, just enough to calm the public. One young aide, looking exhausted, says, "This changes everything." At 4 o'clock, a palace spokesperson steps outside. The family asks for privacy as they deal with a personal issue regarding the Prince of Wales. The statement lands heavily. The crowd quiets down. Rain starts pouring outside, and reporters look at each other, unsure whether to speak up or stay silent. Inside, Catherine gazes out a dim window, watching the reporters scatter below, umbrellas opening in the rain. Her reflection looks tired and worn. She presses her palm against the glass and whispers, "Come on, William. Just come back to us." The House of Whispered Fears. Evening falls over Windsor, and the castle's lights flicker in the fog, making the walls seem dark and mysterious. The servants creep, careful not to disturb whatever is resting in the stones. At Sandringham, a cold wind bends the trees, and inside, the family gathers for a serious situation. Charles sits by the fire, looking older as he grips the armrest. Camilla stirs her tea, concerned. "Do you have news from Catherine?" she asks. "Nothing. She's with him." Charles replies, his voice strained. A private secretary enters. "Sire, Harry's here." Charles nods without expression. Harry arrives, soaked from the rain, and there are no smiles, just a sun coming home to a heavy atmosphere. "I'm glad you're here," Charles says, resting his hand on Harry's shoulder. They settle in, and Harry asks what happened. Catherine begged him to slow down. "Now the doctors are watching," Charles explains, tight-lipped. Outside, rain falls like tears. Catherine travels daily from Windsor to see William at the clinic, trying to appear strong despite her sadness. She sits by William's side, holding his hand, and whispers, "You promised." At Sandringham, the mood grows tense. Camilla visits the chapel at dawn, while Charles watches the rain and memories of happier times come back. "It goes so fast," he murmurs, thinking of William. Harry joins him, and they remember the past together. Night deepens, and the press spreads rumors, causing worry across the nation. Camilla tells Charles to rest, but he fears losing another piece of himself. At midnight, Catherine returns, looking worn out. "How is he?" Charles asks, standing. "He's fighting," she whispers. 4 family members sit together in silence, feeling both love and fear. Kensington's breaking tension. As the light faded over Kensington that afternoon, London's sky was a dull gray, making everything feel flat and harsh. Outside the palace, the gates were lined with cameras, and reporters whispered to each other like they were sharing ghost stories. It had been weeks since anyone had seen William, and the palace's usual calm was starting to unravel. Then that morning, something changed. A sleek black car arrived at the entrance, the door opened, and Catherine stepped out. She appeared calm, with composed features and her usual grace. But her eyes told a different story. Red from lack of sleep, her skin looked fragile, and each movement seemed careful, as if breathing was a struggle. She had faced crowds many times before, but today, people saw not a future queen, but a woman trying to cope with deep pain. The press was ready, microphones in place, and everyone was anxious. She stepped up to the podium, and her fingers shook slightly as she adjusted the stand. After a moment, she looked out, as if she were focused on something far away. Then she spoke, her voice soft yet steady, though it showed signs of strain. "Thank you all for the love you've given us," she began. It's helped us more than words can express." She swallows hard, her breath catching. "These past weeks have been tough, but your notes have kept us grounded." A tear runs down her cheek, noticeable and steady. "William is in good hands now," she says slowly. "Keep him in your thoughts." She turns back to the car, her shoulders slumping as the door closes, shutting out the noise. Inside, she lets her tears flow freely. At St. Mary's, the bright lights and sounds hit her. She visits every day, spending long hours by his side, holding his hand, and whispering to him. His face looks pale but calm. "Remember Onmer's garden?" she whispers one gray afternoon, gently touching his hand. Memories flood in. His laughter, their happy moments. Now his hand feels cold. At home, the kids ask questions. "Is Daddy coming back soon?" She answers with a smile. That night, Harry arrives and freezes at the sight of his brother. Catherine tells him, "He'd want you here," then steps out. Harry sits close and quietly says, "You've always been the rock." He reaches for William's hand and feels a slight response. Catherine returns and sees Harry's tear-filled eyes. She nods, saying, "He's fighting." News about William's health spreads worldwide. Candles appear outside St. Mary's as strangers come together to show support. Inside, Catherine looks down at the lights and feels overwhelmed by the love. "Do you see them, William? The world is waiting for you." Machines hum softly as night stretches on. But with their breaths in sync, she feels hope. "I know you'll make it back," she whispers, holding on to her belief. London sparkles outside, and love is all that remains. Britain holds its breath. Britain stopped everything for William. From small seaside towns to Trafalgar Square, people gathered with candlelight, sharing a sense of sadness. Outside royal places like Buck Palace and Windsor, flowers piled up, heavy lilies, red roses, and wildflowers, all left with shaky hands and whispers of support. Children also got involved, making crayon cards that said, "Feel better, Wills? Love ya." They left teddy bears and funny drawings of crowns. This was not about fancy displays. It was pure love. The whole country felt frozen. His smile appeared on screens but now caused worry. "He was real, you know," an elderly woman said by the palace. Churches became quiet spots. Parks turned into places for vigil. And even bus stops were filled with stories about him. Inside the palace, the family faced uncertainty, clinging to hope. Then, on a gray afternoon, Catherine posted a picture of William's hand in hers, captioned, "Only together." The world reacted quickly, feeling the strength of their love. Later, Charles spoke to the nation. "My friends, tonight I speak as a father. William has faced this with strength and heart. Your support shows us. We're royals, but we are also just a family." His steady voice filled homes, asking for unity and strength. Harry and Meghan sent their support from California. Hearts with William, Catherine, and the family. It was simple, but it healed old wounds. The next morning, headlines read, "For William, we hold as one." Church bells rang out, and students bowed their heads in schools. In pubs, people shared memories of William's kindness and humor. At St. Mary's, flowers and candles overflowed, and strangers held hands in hope, wishing for him to wake up and smile again. Inside, the family gathered without titles, just sharing love. Outside, the whole country waited, hoping William would come back to life, their light returning. Midnight's miracle. The night settles around midnight in the hospital. The corridors are quiet, with only the soft sounds of machines. Catherine sits by the bedside, tired from many sleepless nights. The monitor's glow illuminates her pale face. Each beep reminds her that he is still alive. Nurses suggest she take a break, but she stays, holding his hand. She talks to him softly. "George wants to know about you," she says, brushing hair from his forehead. "Charlotte is making drawings for each day you're away, and Louis is saving hugs just for you." Tears slip down her cheeks as she gently touches his hand. "We need you, love." Outside, rain falls steadily. Inside the room, his shoulders slump under a heavy silence. A photo of Diana and young Wills sits on the table, triggering memories. "Watch over him, Di," he whispers, his voice breaking. "He's just like you." As rain-soaked streets glow with candlelight, time moves slowly. Suddenly, he twitches. Catherine holds her breath. "William," she calls, her heart racing. He opens his eyes slowly, finding hers. Doctors enter the room, but she is in another world, lost in that moment. News spreads quickly at the palace. "He's awake." Charles steps in, his voice soft. "My boy." William replies, but warmly. "Dad." As dawn breaks, news travels fast. HRH, the Prince of Wales, is alert. Hope replaces worry, and as morning light fills the room, Catherine rests her head on his arm and whispers, "Always." The garden keeps score. Dawn breaks over Windsor Gardens, casting a warm glow across the area. The air feels fresh and light. William walks along a familiar path with Catherine, who smiles at the blooming roses. "It's like the world has reset," he says, as they sit on a bench surrounded by mist. "There was a time I thought mornings like this were gone," he shares. Catherine comforts him, saying, "You're here now. That's what matters." He feels at ease, grateful for her support. He breathes in the lilac-scented breeze, ready to embrace life and enjoy every moment. While news of his recovery spreads, they cherish the peaceful silence filled with love and memories. In a clearing, they find a lone sapling. William kneels, remembering planting it with his mother. With Catherine beside him, he expresses his gratitude for her presence. As they stand and stroll, they think about how life has changed. "It's about the breaths in between," Catherine observes. William smiles, recalling his mother's wisdom. They sit again on the bench and watch a nearby robin, enjoying the familiar scene. In this garden, they promise to treasure simple, meaningful moments. Leaning back and soaking up the sun, William feels alive and thankful. "We've grown," he whispers, smiling. The world feels beautiful and delicate, embraced by the garden's warmth.